I was given text 40 and 41. 42 verse number is written in the board. So I did not prepare this verse. So verse is little difficult for me to pronounce. So I'll try. If Bengali book is there, then it is easy for me. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, chapter 57, text 40 to 42. So 42 verse is written in the board. So recite this verse. यस्ते तद् भगवत् ईश्वरस्य विष्णोर् यस्ते तद् भगवतो ईश्वरस्य विष्णोर् वेदिजाढ्यं वृजिनरं सुमङ्गलं च वीर्याढ्यं वृजिनरहं सुमङ्गलं च ज्ञानं पठति शृणोतु स्मरत्वा दुष्कृतिं दुष्कृतिं दुरिताम् अपहजाति शान्तिम् यस्ते तद् भगवत् ईश्वरस्य विष्णोर् वीर्याढ्यं वृजिनरनं सुमङ्गलं च आख्यानं पठति शृणोतु स्मरत्वा दुष्कृतिं दुरितम् अपहजाति शान्तिम् यस्ते तद् भगवत ईश्वरस्य विष्णोर् वीर्याढ्यं वृजिना नरअरहं सुमङ्गलं च आख्यानं पठति शृणोत्यानुस्मरेद्वा दुष्कृतिं दुरति अपहजाति शान्तिम् वीर्याढ्यं वृजिनरहरं सुमङ्गलं च आख्यानं पठति शृणोत्यनुस्मरेद्वा दुष्कृतिं दुरितापहा जाति शान्तिम् कृतिं दुरतिं कपयो याति शान्तिम्. Translation. Purport by His Divine Grace, by the disciples of His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So, we'll read the translation of this verse first and then we'll go to previous verses. This narration rich with description and praises of the Lord Sri Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, removes sinful reaction and bestows all auspiciousness. Anyone who recites, hears, or remembers it will drive away his own infamy and sin and attain peace. In the last verse, so uh, Sukadev Goswami is giving the blessings that anybody hear or recite or remember these verses will drive away his own infamy, sin, and attain peace. So, we'll read text number 40. एवं समभिर अलब्धा सफल का तनयो मनीम आद्य व्याससाम अच्छन्य ददौ सूर्य समाप्रभम. Translation. Thus, shamed by Lord Krishna's conciliatory word, the son of Sapalka brought out the jewel from where he had concealed it in his clothing and gave it to the Lord. The brilliant gem shone like the sun. Purport. We can see in this chapter how a valuable jewel caused so much intrigue, violence, and suffering. This is certainly a good lesson for those who desire a trouble-free spiritual life. Text 41. Samantakam darshvaitya janti gyati bho rajatmana Vimsrijya maninam bhuyas tasmai pratyarpaya prabhu tasmai pratyarpaya prabhu. Translation. After the Almighty Lord has shown the Samantaka jewel to his relatives, thus dispelling the false accusations against him, he returned it to Akrura. For the second time, doubt about the Lord's reputation occasioned by the Samantaka jewel are dispelled by the jewel itself. Indeed, for the second time, the Lord brought the jewel to Dwarka to establish his integrity there. This amazing series of incidents demonstrate that even when the Lord Krishna descend to this world, there is a tendency for his peers to criticize him. The whole material world is infected by the fault-finding propensity. And in this chapter, the Supreme Lord demonstrates the nature of this undesirable quality. Text 42 again. This narration rich with description of the prowess of the Lord Sri Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, removes sinful reaction and bestows all auspiciousness. Anyone who recites, hears, or remembers it will drive away his own infamy and sin and attain peace. चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुर्वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषो शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशकारिणे नमो महावदन्नाय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरतिसे नमो हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशो गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मुखं करोति वाचालं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं निमतामितं परमानन्दमाधवं Hare Krishna. So I seek blessing from all the devotees, especially the senior devotees sitting here, so that I can speak something from Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Amal Puran, most exalted scripture, for the glorification of the Supreme Lord and especially for my own purification. So these last three verses are very, very instructive verse, especially Srila Prabhupada write his purport, and I feel that it is very important for me, for my own purification. So please bless me so that I can speak something for my own purification or also practice in my life. So we'll go verse by verse. So we'll start from text 40. एवं समभिरालभ्य सपल का तनयो मणिम आद्य वासनम अच्छन्न वाससास अच्छन्न तदो सूर्य समाप्रभ. Thus, shamed by the Lord Krishna's conciliatory words, the son of Sapalka brought out the jewel from where he had concealed it in his clothing and gave it to the Lord. The brilliant gem shone like the sun. we can see this chapter how a valuable jewel causes so much intrigue, violence, and suffering. This is certainly a good lesson for those who desire a trouble-free spiritual life. In the first verse of this this verse, uh, purport of this verse, Srila Prabhupada writes that how this valuable jewel, Samantaka, causes so much suffering and trouble and violence in the life of the different people in Dwarka. So, in this pastime, uh, we see that so many people have died because of one Samantaka jewel. How many people died in this whole pastime? Anybody can remember? Who? Satrajit, then huh? Lion, yes, then Satyadhanya, then Prasen, then one horse, I think. Anybody else? What about Satyajit's wife? I think she also died. No? Satyajit's wife, she did not die. So, uh, so, so 5% died because of this one Samantaka jewel. Obviously, like Samantaka jewel is not an ordinary jewel. So, uh, so this jewel used to produce so much gold, and anybody like to have this Samantaka jewel uh, if he have opportunity. So we know about many jewel like diamond, kohinoor, ruby, and many other jewels. So if if you visit like British Museum, you can see many jewels which the queens of like British Taj they used to wear in their crown, and most of the jewel is stolen. Most of the jewel is stolen from India. So from this we can understand that because of uh, because of people become so violent, people uh, become very much violent and uh, and end up with fighting and killing when they come or they become intoxicated by excessive wealth, money, property, post, etc. So, uh, so the Britishers they took away whatever they can from India. So they attacked India because India was very much rich that time. And you know the history that what happened after that. So, uh, so these are the wealth which we can see. But the Samantaka jewel was much more powerful and uh, great than all these jewels. So it is written here, Dado Surya Samaprabha. The brilliant gem shone like a sun. So it is as brilliant, as beautiful, as dazzling, like sun glow, and it could produce unlimited gold. So Lord Krishna, he was not attached to Samantaka jewel. So, uh, so though so many things took place in Dwarka, but he was not attached or attracted to Samantuka jewel. So, so that is the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, Krishna was wearing Kaustava jewel. So, Kaustava jewel is much is the greatest jewel which Krishna wear on his neck, on his chest. So, and this jewel is transcendentally situated. Is transcendental jewel. Who gave Kaustava jewel to Krishna? Kaustava jewel. On there. Forward. So, but in the material point of view, in the material point, the Samantaka jewel is the topmost jewel. So, and because of that jewel and wealth which one can acquire for this particular jewel, uh, many people, uh, like Satrajit, Sattadhanya Prosen, then Kritavarma, Jambavan, Akrura, they all mixed up with fighting. And uh, and so much trouble took place. So, so this is the nature of being this is the nature of material wealth. When somebody become attached to the material wealth, he become intoxicated, and uh, and he forgets his original goal of life. We see in the pastime of Indra. So Indra become very much proud, being the head of heavenly planet, head of the demigods. And in the heavenly planet, there is lot of opulence and facility to enjoy. So, material opulence provides lots of facility to enjoy our senses, and therefore, uh, when people have lot of material wealth, naturally they are prone to fall in sense gratification. So, so Indra, having being the head of the heavenly planet, he became very much proud. And when Lord Krishna lifted Govardhan hill, so stopping Indra Puja, so he cannot tolerate that. He cannot tolerate that, and he started attacking. He started attacking the whole Vrindavan Dham. So, uh, and later we see that how Indra was uh, Indra was humiliated. Indra uh, uh, became ashamed. So, and then Indra offered his prayers, and in his prayers he writes that he speaks that this material wealth, uh, excessive material wealth, and having uh, high post produce pride, and it is like a stone boat. It is like a stone boat, uh, which actually and anybody, it is like a stone boat, and whoever sits in this stone boat, it sinks. So, so thus, this material wealth, it is unfavorable. Material wealth or attachment to the material wealth is unfavorable for spiritual advancement. So Prabhupada writes that money and woman is is if somebody is attached to money and woman, it will be very difficult for him to going back to spiritual world. Similarly, we can see in the life of non-Kuber and Manigriv. So they are sons of Kubera, and Kuber is the in charge of the treasury of heavenly planet. And being sons of Kubera, this non-Kuber and Manigriv were very much intoxicated, and they fall into sense gratification. So, and then they were such in intoxication state, they became completely naked, and they could not identify Narad Muni, who was passing by the way. So, so thus, material wealth causes sense gratification. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes, "Tomar konok bhoger janok, konoker name sevoh madhov." So, excessive wealth or material wealth produce sense gratification, desire to enjoy sense gratification, and therefore it is not so much favorable for a devotee who want to go back to the spiritual world. So, in the prayers of Kunti Maharani offer her prayers, and she says that Janmai Sarja Suto Shribhir Eda Mato Madho Puman Naivar Hati Abhidhatum Vai Tam Akinchana Gocharam. The Supreme Person of Godhead is visible only to those who are uh, uh, disgusted to the material wealth and sense gratification. So, four things makes us intoxicated uh, to the sense gratification. So, Janma, high birth, Aishwarya, uh, material opulence, then Shruta, knowledge, degree, material education, and Shri, bodily beauty. So, Janmai Sarja Sutta Srivir Edo Mato Mother. Mother means intoxicated. Mother Puman. So one get intoxicated by this four thing, Janma Aishwarya Sutta Srivir. And therefore, they cannot call out the Supreme Personality of Godhead helplessly. They cannot practice Krishna consciousness wholeheartedly because of being intoxicated by this four thing. And therefore, uh, uh, one should try to become free from all this attachment to all these four things. So that's what Srila Prabhupada writes, that it is certainly a good lesson for those who desire a trouble-free spiritual life. So if you want to have trouble-free spiritual life, if you want to safely practice Krishna consciousness and want to go back to the spiritual world, then we should try to become free from the attachment to these four things: Janma, Aishwarya, Shukto, Srivir, especially material wealth. So, we see in the pastime of Sanatan Goswami, Sanatan Goswami was doing his bhajan in Vrindavan, and he was having touchstone. Sanatan Goswami was having touchstone, and he kept that touchstone in the dustbin. So, uh, though Sanatan Goswami, he was not a sadhaka devotee. Though Sanatan Goswami is not an ordinary devotee, he is a liberated soul or pure devotee, but still he did not keep touchstone with himself. He could keep, but he did not keep touchstone with himself because he wanted to set an example for all of us. He wanted to set an example for all of us that if we keep material wealth, excessive material wealth, and or if we become attached to the material wealth, then it will surely fall us or fall victim of sense gratification. So, uh, definitely uh, we will lose our sincerity to practice Krishna consciousness. So, so therefore, Sanatan Goswami, uh, he was completely focused on his uh, devotional service or fulfilling the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Sanatan Goswami, he was the prime minister of King Hussain Shah. So, he was having everything, but he left everything to achieve or develop love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, therefore, every sadhaka should be very careful not to get intoxicated or not to get influenced by this material wealth, and therefore he has to carefully uh, either he has to keep distance from material wealth, or he has to be carefully use the material wealth in the service of Krishna. Konokel name Sigho Madhav. So two way, either we should keep distance and continue our Krishna consciousness very sincerely, or we have to be very expert. Till the time you are not expert, we should keep distance. So we see Srila Prabhupada, he went with 40 rupees to America to spread the message of Krishna consciousness. And in the due course of time, we see that Lord Krishna have provided so much wealth to Srila Prabhupada. But what is Srila Prabhupada's position? Srila Prabhupada was very expert to use the Lakshmi or money in the service of Madhava, who is the husband of Lakshmi, who is husband of Lakshmi. So, uh, so therefore, even there was lot of money flowing in Krishna conscious movement, lot of followers from very aristocratic background, and Srila Prabhupada was leader of the international society. But Srila Prabhupada was not intoxicated because he was completely fixed in his service to his spiritual master. So, so when we serve spiritual master or the previous acharya, then we can transcend our anarthas. So by practicing pure devotees or spiritual master, we can transcend our anarthas and gradually develop attraction to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is very, very important for all of us to practice. So in ISKCON, uh, uh, we deal with naturally we deal with money or different responsibilities, post, and many other things. So we have to, if we are not very sincere, serving uh, the mission of Srila Prabhupada, spiritual master and previous acharyas, and if we are not guided by the advanced devotees, senior devotees, we may get carried away by all these things. So, so therefore, a sincere devotee uh, will be very careful so that he can safely practice his spiritual life, and and uh, and he can go back to the spiritual world. So, sincere devotee will be very always remember that everything belongs to Krishna. Ishamasam idam sarvam. Everything belongs to Krishna. So Krishna is the master of everything. Krishna is the enjoyer of everything. Krishna is the proprietor of everything. And therefore, I will use everything for the service of Krishna. So that is the message uh, from this verse, text 40. So, so now, uh, when this uh, when this money, property, or other opulences uh, is not used properly or is not dealt properly, then it creates misunderstanding. It creates violence. It creates fight between devotees or non-devotees also. We see recently, like some minister caught because uh, he have stolen so much wealth of the government, and he get caught. So outside, it is happening randomly. Every day it is happening. So because people have desire to enjoy sense gratification, and therefore they want to have more and more money, wealth. Now, in the Krishna consciousness society, in our Krishna consciousness life, if we are not very careful to how to handle the money or property or post and position, so it create misunderstanding and violence in the community of a devotee, and then whole project or whole service get lost. So, so uh, therefore, it is very important that we become very sincere in our own life and uh, and have a very sustainable uh, sustainable spiritual community, or a very uh, nice relationship, keep very nice relationship among the devotees. So, so in this verse 41, Srila Prabhupada writes that the nature of the material world, this amazing series of incidents demonstrate that even when Lord Krishna descends to this world, there is a tendency for his peers to criticize him. The whole world, the whole material world is inflicted by fault-finding tendency. And in this chapter, the Supreme Lord demonstrates the nature of the undesirable quality. So, uh, so this nature of this material world is finding faults in others. So, even the Supreme Lord, when he was present, so uh, people criticized Supreme Person of Godhead, or they start finding faults in each other's. So, uh, so thus, uh, material world, material world, people start criticizing. People are infected by the desire to criticize others. So this criticism or finding faults, it starts with gossip. So prajalpa, we have heard in Updeshamrit, Rup Goswami Pad says that this prajalpa or mundane gossip is like a talking of a frog. When frog like makes sounds, then what happens? Snake comes. So similarly, when we become absorbed or involved in gossip or prajalpa, then it reduces our lifespan. It reduces our lifespan, and gradually we start seeing spiritual life in material point of view. We start seeing spiritual life or spiritual practice in the material point of view, and uh, thus our desire to practice Krishna consciousness sincerely, our taste in chanting and reading and hearing goes away. And then because we are not getting pleasure in hearing and chanting and serving Krishna, we take pleasure criticizing others. So this criticizing others or fault finding start from prajalpa. Sometimes we think that okay, I am not criticizing others, I am doing prajalpa, थोड़ा entertainment होने दीजिए, ज़्यादा उतना भी serious होने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. But unfortunately, what is the nature of this prajalpa? It leads to finding faults in others or criticizing others, especially the Vaishnavas. So now this criticizing others, the root cause of criticizing others is envy. So envy, jealousy. So because we are envious with others, so therefore we find fault in others. Because we want to be better than others, we want to show that I am better than others. Therefore, the material mind start finding fault in others and want to say that you are better than him. So sometimes we find fault in others because we want to cover our fault. So the another reason of fault finding is that we have faults. Because we have faults and therefore we want to prove that we do not have any faults. Actually, he has fault, and thus we start finding faults in others. So, so in this way, this fault finding and criticism comes from prajalpa, and thus one commit Vaishnava aparadha. And the community which is based on such consciousness of finding fault in others or criticizing others cannot grow, cannot advance, cannot live together. Now this is a Sankirtan movement. We have to live together. We cannot make this mission successful unless we live together, and therefore to live together we have to encourage each other, we have to appreciate each other, we have to help each other, we have to cooperate with each other to fulfill the mission of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore it is a responsibility of all of us to take shelter of pure devotees, Srila Prabhupada, the previous Acharya, the Supreme Lord, and thus be together. So when the great personality is present between us, Krishna is present, Guru is present, then naturally there is a possibility that we can be together. So therefore, by uh, by by focusing to serve the mission of spiritual master or Srila Prabhupada or previous acharyas or Supreme Lord or Chaitanya, we can be together and satisfy the mission of the Supreme Lord. In the example of Daksha Prajapati, in that, so he invited all the great personalities, I think for the marriage of Parvati. And in that assembly, Lord Shiva also came. And because Lord Shiva is a great personality, always, always in samadhi, so this Daksha could not see the great devotion of Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva came in the assembly and he was remembering, he was meditating on the Supreme Lord. But this Daksha, because of fault finding mentality, he was completely blind. and he could not see the great position of Lord Shiva. And what happened? Because of that, he started criticizing Lord Shiva. So now Daksha was very much intoxicated, being in high post, and having lot of material wealth, and because of that he started criticizing or finding faults in Lord Shiva. And then what was the result? The result was he has to get the goat face. So he lost his everything, and in the further life, next life also, he criticized, he offended Narad Muni. So like that, the nature of fault finding. So, so Srila Prabhupada says that nobody can break this society, ISKCON, from outside. So unless we break from inside. So therefore, it is very very important for all of us to develop Vaishnava relationship and appreciate each other, encourage each other, support each other, help each other, so that everybody can perform better service. Everybody can practice Krishna consciousness nicely, sincerely. So, and His Holiness Bhakti Prem Swami Maharaj was speaking long back. He was saying that when we will become busy in serving Krishna or preaching Krishna consciousness, then we will have no time for criticizing others. We have no time for finding faults in others. When you are not sufficiently busy, then idle mind is devil's workshop. Then you start finding faults in others. So therefore, we have to be sufficiently busy in our devotional service. Uh, then then we'll have no time for criticizing others, and by serving the mission of the Supreme Lord will be purified. Another important thing that that the material world, naturally people have desire to finding fault or criticizing others or criticizing the Supreme Lord. But when you glorify Krishna by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, by preaching Srimad Bhagavatam, the message of Bhagavad Gita, then we become free from the tendency to finding faults or criticizing others. So in this way, Lord Krishna, through his pastime of in Dwarka, he teaches us a lot of lesson so that we can practice Krishna consciousness sincerely. So in this, just take 1 minute. So in this whole pastime, lot of dilemma, tragedy, and violence took place. But Krishna protected his devotees. Like Krishna protected Akrura. Krishna protected Jambavan. Though they have also become bewildered for some time being because of Samantaka jewel, and they have done some mistake, but because Krishna, and they were devotee of Krishna, so Krishna took the responsibility to protect them. So in due course of this misunderstanding and different like dealing, so Jambavan could understand by the fight that Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he should enjoy this Samantaka jewel. And for the example, in the case of Akrura, Akrura understood that Krishna knows everything. That I have taken away the Samantaka jewel, and Krishna knows everything, and therefore uh, they surrendered to Krishna, and they became very joyful at the end of the pastime. But in the case of Satyadhanya, Prasen, and Satrajit, so they were very much attached to the material wealth, and therefore they could not surrender to Krishna, and therefore they suffered the result of their karma. So Prabhupada writes in his purport that Satrajit, he offered uh, Satyabhama uh, to Krishna, but he was not so happy to give Samantaka jewel to Krishna, because he was very much attached to the Samantaka jewel, and therefore Krishna returned the Samantaka jewel back, and that Samantaka jewel was the cause of his death for Satrajit and for Satyadhanya, for Prashen, and many others. So Krishna wants that we give up our false attachment and become attached to Him. But when we are so much, uh, so much attached, and we do not want to give it up, then Krishna says, then what I can do? So thus in this pastime you can see that although devotees were also attached, but Krishna protected the devotees. And devotees were very happy, like Akrura and Jambavan was very happy that though we have done the mistake, but ultimately Krishna has protected us. Krishna loved us because he has protected us. So thus, uh, uh, they also gone through some painful situation, but they were purified and they were protected by the Supreme Person of Godhead. So, uh, so thank you very much for your kind attention. So whatever I little bit understood and heard from some devotees, so I try to explain. So please, whatever I spoke, it is for my own purification, and please bless me so they can practice something which I spoke from this class. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Samavita Bhakta Vrinda ki, Gaur